Board of Appeals meeting for the Village of East Hampton for Friday, January 8th. Just a little housekeeping before we start the meeting. We will be having, at the fourth Friday of each month, a work session when needed. So if there's something that comes up that we need to discuss after we've closed the hearings, we definitely have the meetings are scheduled, but please watch out. They may be canceled if we have nothing to discuss at that time. We have the minutes from December 11th, 2020. Do I hear a motion to pass the minutes?
So move.
Do I have a second? Or all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have two determinations that are on the agenda in the application of Brian Bigos, 20 Stratton Square, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-5-17 to construct a patio and install a liquid propane tank is denied.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey? Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Okay. The next application, in the application of the Maidstone Club Incorporated, 88, 90, and 95 Dunmere Lane and 50 West Dune Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 301-9-3-10 and 11 and 9-4-11 and 17 to adopt a negative declaration.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Okay, in the application of the Maidstone Club Incorporated, 88, 90, and 95 Dunmere Lane, 50 West Dune Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 301-9-3-10 and 11, and 9.4, 11, and 17 to conduct maintenance and activities to cut vegetation within wetlands and adjacent to the wetlands is granted.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the adjournments till February 12th, 2021. We have 64 WE Acquisition LLC, 64 West End Road, and we have Eric and Lori Blatstein, 211 Lily Pond Lane. Okay. And then we're going to go to the continual hearing.
Do you want to, John, do you want to do a motion and a second on those?
Should we?
I think so.
Okay. Can we have a motion?
So motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're going to do the continued hearings now. The first hearing is Gary N. Kravitz at 2 Baiting Hollow Road.
Good morning, members of the board. Brian DeCessa, 2462 Main Street, attorney for the applicant. We had submitted to the board revisions to our previous plan that were before the board. Specifically, we reduced the amount of lot coverage that was previously requested. And in doing so, well, as a effect of that, we reduced our gross floor area. So we reduced the gross floor area of the house, which has an attached garage, by 349 square feet. So what our position on that now is for the board's consideration is that with the reduction in the house size, the livable area of the house comes to 6,743 square feet, which complies with the gross floor area calculation for the lot. However, with attaching the garage, which is 497 square feet, we're over on the allowable GFA. We're asking this board to consider that variance now in the reduced amount based on the fact that the lot has 2 front yards and the applicant is trying to not position or build additional structures on the lot. So the house itself, as you may recall, even last time with the double height foyer and ceilings, still would comply with the GFA, but for us attaching the garage. The applicant is prepared to offer a covenant on the property that no other buildings, whether it be principal or accessory structures, would ever be constructed on the lot if the board were inclined to go in favor of this. And in addition, the applicant would also file a covenant on the property that the attached garage to the house would never be converted into living space at a future date. So it allows us to go from 2 buildings to 1 building and allow on a corner lot. So this is all toward the garage is toward the corner of Buckskill and Baiting Hollow Road. You also have in your record a letter in support from the neighbor to the south based on a review of the project.
Thanks, Brian. Is that all you have?
Those were the revisions and additional concessions that the applicant is hoping will have the board look in favor with those 2 covenants, which we would, propose to your attorney for review if the board were inclined to go in that direction.
Okay. And Phil, you want to take us away on this, or?
Well, I had a question for Brian. At a previous meeting, there was something about a tennis court. What's going on with that? Was the application amended to move the tennis court, or is it staying where it is?
We moved the tennis court, Mr. O'Connell. We moved it closer to Buckskill Road, which was away from. We moved it north and slightly east, which moved it away from the 3 adjoining residential lots. It still complies with setbacks and dimensional relief, but that is.
Oh, okay. So for some reason, I thought that was in front of us also. Okay.
It is not.
So, last time around, I think we were pretty clear that, both who's now the chairman, John McGurk, and myself, that if you're constructing a new house, that you should build to the code, and there shouldn't be any relief absent a major, some sort of major issue with the lot, whether it be the geography, the shape, location, etc. However, I hear what you're saying about covenanting that there be no other buildings. Did I get that correct? No pool house, no sheds, nothing else?
No additional buildings than what's proposed. That's correct. So, and the house, just to clarify the point, the house living area does comply with GFA, but when we attach the garage, that's what puts it over. So we're proposing no additional structures other than what's proposed on the survey before you going forward. And the second part would be a covenant that the attached garage would never be converted into any living space.
Okay, so, and I just see the proposed pool house, which is 18 by 13, which is smaller than the allowable size.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. This changes a bit my opinion on this application, offering up those covenants. So that's where I am. I can't speak for the rest of the board. John?
I think it's a win. So I kind of like the idea. So, Joe, you want to weigh in on this?
I have no comment. I agree with the overall sentiments as expressed. I don't have any particular.
Jimmy?
I'm fine with this. I appreciate the attempt to change it to help get to where the board likes this. Thank you.
Craig?
There are no additional buildings. That means additional structures as well?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, then I'm fine with this.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so we're up to close the hearing.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks, Brian. I have Herman G. and Linda Gunlap at 149 Main Street. I just want to, just one thing, that we did get a letter from the neighbors to the west that no longer have an objection with this application because of the way they've moved the equipment and they took out the generator. I just wanted to put that, let everyone know that. So, Jimmy, you want to take this out?
Sure. We all received a updated survey showing where they're moving the AC units, and pool equipment slightly off the property line, so they can screen this from the road and from the 1770 house property. They also eliminated the generator from the application, so that doesn't need to be screened or covered with anything. So with this, I appreciate the applicant making the amendments, and I have no problem with this.
Okay, Mr. Rose?
The one thing that I as I see it that persists is the independent freestanding outdoor shower structure in the setback area, which I'm not sure I understand why that's necessary. I mean, it could be attached. I have no problem with an outdoor shower, but I don't see why it couldn't be attached to the house, the barn structure that's right there. I don't see why it needs to be a separate new structure in the setback area. I'm not sure.
Bill?
Can I address that?
Yes, please.
Ed Krug, 39 Isle of Wight Road, for the applicants Linda and Emery Gunalp.
Mr. Krug, Mr. Krug, let me swear you in.
Yes.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Ed Krug, 39 Isle of Wight Road in East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to address that question, I mean, I don't know if anyone's been to the site, but it is quite constrained. If you were to kind of look at the sort of what I would call the back of the house near where the equipment's being proposed, that would be kind of a very tight spot. Have to put this kind of a shower. Really, it's sort of a nice little tucked away spot on the east side of the barn. And it's not actually a structure. It's really a freestanding shower unit with vegetation and soundproof fencing behind it. So it isn't actually additional structure. It just felt like, it was the most kind of accommodating spot to provide a little bit of space for a shower. It would have been very difficult to try to squeeze it in on the other side of the barn, which would have been the other logical place to put it.
Let me just be clear. I wasn't suggesting putting it on the other side of the barn or not having it. Just, I don't see why it can't be tucked up against the barn on the same side where it is. Why does it need to be standing apart?
In that same spot. Is that what you're suggesting? Okay.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Rose can speak for himself, would like to see it attached to the building.
Okay.
Is that correct, Joe?
Yes, that's correct.
He said he's gonna stop by Friday.
So it's really just a matter of flipping it to the other side of that space is what you're suggesting.
Just tucking it up to and attached to the barn structure.
Mm-hmm.
So not that it can't go into that little area, but there's to have it be out separate. As you say, it's a very tight and constrained location. Why not just put it up? Allowing for that shower to exist, the minimum relief that would allow it to exist in that tight location would be to put it up against the house, against the barn, in that same side.
If that is the kind of consensus of the board, as long as we can, use that area for the shower, and it's just a matter of moving it to the opposite side, essentially, and putting the shower body itself up against the barn. I'm not sure that there's an issue with that on our part, if that's what the board would like us to do.
Craig, do you have anything to add?
Oh, you're going to move it to the east side of the barn, closer.
Yeah, he's got.
Well,
Yes.
what Mr. Rose has suggested is that we flip it to the barn side of that space.
I know, but it's on the east side.
On the east side.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it continues to be on that east side of the barn, yes.
That's fine. It just opens up some space there. That's nice.
No, it is up 1770 is a pre-existing non-conforming use in a residential neighborhood, I believe. 1770 originally had a apartment above a ground, and then it became then the village allowed, the ZBA allowed them to become part of a cottage. So it's a full-on cottage now that didn't exist for years against this residential lot. And then the ZBA gave 1770 relief over the years to allow outside dining. So I think, I don't think this shower is going to affect the neighbors at all. Or I don't think the AC units and the mechanicals are going to affect any of the neighbors also.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything, Phil?
Yeah, I would just, I'm in favor of the application, but what distinguishes this in my mind is what John said. We have a pre-existing non-conforming in restaurant and outside dining. That's I don't want to say a noisy use, but an intense use. And it's my opinion that the blower unit, the AC units, and the pool equipment will be negligible compared to those sounds emanating from the inn and restaurant and the 1770 house. So,
and Montauk Highway. So,
yeah. And I'm fine with the shower being moved against the barn.
Okay.
So we're all set?
Mr. Chair, can I make one more comment, please?
Please.
I did have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Schwerin, who was the neighbor to the west. He did reach out and talk to me. And we did, as you noted, make a decision to eliminate the generator at this point in time, kind of as a neighborly gesture. I think one of the things that maybe the neighbors weren't entirely aware of, that the as of right location for that generator would have actually placed it even closer to his property. There is some possibility down the line that Mr. and Mrs. Connaught may want to apply for a variance to have that generator put in, but that'll be a sort of a future application down the line, and we would probably come back with a suggested location closer to where the other equipment is now being proposed. So just a little bit of perspective on that issue.
Okay, thank you. We take them one at a time, so.
I understand.
We'll look at the new application when it's submitted. Thank you. So a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now moving on, thank you. Thank you all. Now moving on to the hearings. Pam, would you please?
Application of Lily Pond Equities, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-1313-11.1 for variances from Chapter 101 Coastal Erosion Hazard Areas, variances from Chapter 278 Zoning, and variances from Chapter 124 Preservation of Dunes to make alterations and construct additions to an existing single-family residence and construct accessory improvements. A coastal erosion hazard area permit and variances are required in accordance with sections 1019B and 10119 to make alterations to the existing residence, to construct additions, and to construct an attached screen porch and accessory improvements located seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line. Variances of 36.9 feet and 52 feet are requested from sections 124, 1A1 and 2, and 278, 3A7 to make alterations to a residence and construct additions from the 15-foot contour line and 98 feet from the edge of beach where the required setbacks are 100 feet and 150 feet. Variances of 36 feet and 53.4 feet are requested from sections 124, 1A1 and 2, and 278, 3A7 to construct a screen-in porch 64 feet from 15-foot contour line and 96.6 feet from the edge of beach where the required setbacks are 1 feet. At 278 3A4 addition 32.4 feet from the side yard lot line where the required setback is 34 feet and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 78,000 feet in area and is located at 33 Lily Pond Lane in Residence District R160. The property adjoins the Ocean Beach and is located in FEMA flood zone VE elevation 17 and zone X. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Thanks, Pam. Mr. Ackerman?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My colleague, Linda Margolin, is on board. She is going to explain in more detail than I'm capable of why this is essentially a redo of the 2005 application that was granted by this board with respect to the proposed addition to the east. I just would like to point out to you that we're not seeking any GFA variance. This is essentially a coastal erosion variance to make an expansion under the 24.9% rule, which the village has utilized in allowing and determining applications for expansions within coastal erosion. There are minuscule contour variances and beach grass variances arising from the fact that this is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And I think significantly important here is the mitigation. This application, as the prior application, will reduce coverage.
I'm having a hard time hearing Lenny. Is anybody else having a hard time hearing?
Yes, I am as well.
Yes.
It's just been breaking up.
Froze on me.
Well, is it better now?
Yes.
It's my neighborhood, Florida. With respect to mitigation, we're reducing coverage to make it conforming. We're proposing the grant a scenic easement, revegetation plan, removing lights on the beach. That was all part of the 2019 application. CNR with respect to the sunroom, so it would not be converted to space. Linda is going to take you through and put on the screen the explanation of how we believe we comply with the 24.9% rule. Linda?
Okay. Members of the zoning board, good morning. My name is Linda Margolin. I'm an attorney. I'm a counsel to Mr. Ackerman's firm. At this point, Nick Spadilla is going to assist us by sharing some documents up on the screen so that I can take you through our analysis of what this board approved in 2005 and what we're asking you to approve now. And the reason I'm doing this is because we've gone back over the analysis that's implicit in the notations on the survey that was part of this application. And we realized that that analysis was not correct. So we're not asking you for anything other than the physical alterations that are proposed in the pending application, but I'm going to give you an analysis that is consistent with the way the board handled this application, an application for expansion in 2005. So in 2005, the starting point for expansion of the existing dwelling was 3,491 square feet. That consisted of the house and what was described as an integral brick terrace. The 24.9% of that number would be 869.26 feet. How did we get to that number in 2005? There was a letter that was part of the application from Tom Lawrence, and he explained that when you took the square footage of the existing house as a pre-existing non-conforming structure and the brick terrace, which he described as an integral part of the house, the total was 3,491 square feet. If you look at the Zoning Board of Appeals decision, and we can pull that up for you if you want to see it, but right now I'd just like to take you through it. The Zoning Board of Appeals accepted this analysis, and they also accepted Tom Lawrence's analysis that said to the extent that any portion of the expanded living space would go where the brick terrace existed, it was not an expansion under your CHA law because it didn't increase the footprint. So what the board allowed was a 2-story, 1,804 square foot addition abutting the house to the east. In other words, they allowed a footprint addition of approximately 900 square feet to the east of the existing house. Nick, for a moment, could you put up the diagram that was prepared by the architects for us? So this is a schematic that shows you what was approved in 2005, what actually exists on the site, and what we're asking for now. The bottom drawing shows what exists right now. There's a slight discrepancy in the measurements recited in Mr. Lawrence's letter and the way we've actually measured what's there. But for the purposes of this application, we're using the smaller numbers that were in the application in 2005, where he said the brick patio was 916 square feet, although when we measure it today, it's 960, although we believe it's exactly the same structure. And there's also a slight discrepancy with respect to the house, but we're using the smaller numbers, which total 3,491 square feet. If you move to the middle drawing, what you will see is that the 2005 proposal that was approved essentially squared off the house and overlaid almost all of the brick terrace that existed. So the zoning board didn't count as an expansion the portion that overlaid the brick terrace, but they counted the remainder. I don't have access to that drawing at the moment, but we can tell with a 2-story addition of 1,804 feet that the footprint was approximately 900 square feet. If we go to the top, which is what we're asking for now, what you will see is that the proposed expansion, including the screen porch, which is outlined in green,
And Linda?
covers a small part of the brick terrace. Yes, Mr. Chair.
That is a screen porch, right? That's not a.
The screen porch is what's outlined in green.
Okay, thank you.
And the conditioned space expansion is to the west of it, outlined in like that aqua shade.
Okay.
So you see a small portion of the conditioned space expansion overlays the brick patio that exists, and the amount as computed by the architect, I asked them to do it for today's presentation, is 110 square feet. So if we could go back now, Nick, to my sheet showing how we analyze the application. So if I turn to the bottom half of the sheet now, the starting point for expansion is still the same number, 3,491 square feet, and 24.9% would be 869.26 feet. The architectural plans say that the proposed addition consists of 549 square feet of enclosed conditioned space and 447 square feet for a screen porch, for a total of 996 square feet. But as we just showed you on the diagram, 110 square feet of this addition overlays the footprint of the brick patio, so that the actual expansion under CHA is only 896 square feet. And now I turn to the last paragraph. Somewhere in this process, before the actual drawings were prepared, there was a mistake in the calculation. We can't exactly track it down, but what we're proposing to you turns out to be 25.7% of 3,491 square feet, not 24.9. So we're asking if you would consider approving this as it stands right now without the necessity of redrawing the plans. But if the board is going to require us that we come in exactly at 24.9%, then we could redraw the plans. We think that means removing, I think it's about it looks like 27 square feet.
Okay. Is that your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm prepared to take questions. I know it's a little bit complicated.
Billy, I'm gonna come to you right now. Is that okay? Just get some comments from you. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. Billy Hayjack on behalf of the village. Yeah, I'm just trying to, I think I understand, but I'm not 100% clear on I thought, it was my impression that the house addition was 25%, was equated to just less than 25% expansion. And the accessory improvements that were proposed cumulatively, including the screened-in porch, was just less than 25%. Am I incorrect in assuming that?
Those numbers are the way it was analyzed on the survey.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went back and looked at the way that the board actually treated the 2005 application, it seemed that the way it was being analyzed in the survey was not consistent, because the survey separately analyzed the square footage attributable to the screen porch and attributable to the conditioned space that was being added to the house. But that seemed to be inconsistent with what's required under CHA, which addresses a footprint, not whether the space is conditioned or not. And when we looked at the footprint that the board found represented the footprint of the principal dwelling, that was the 3,491 square feet, it made more sense to analyze this application with that as our starting point, because that's what the board approved in 2005. That's the way they treated this house, which basically is still the same house under this law, which remains the same as it was in 2005. So I realize that the presentation made per the survey, and I understand that your memo looked to that, Mr. Hayjack, to understand what was being done. But we don't think that's a sensible way to look at it with respect to the surveyor. I understand what they did, but it's not consistent with the way the board treated this house in 2005.
Linda, would you explain why we're relying on 2005 under?
Well, as I'm sure the Zoning Board of Appeals Council would advise you, there's a principle of so-called administrative res judicata, that is to say, Zoning Board of Appeals are not supposed to depart from prior decisions unless there's a change in circumstances that justifies it. Now, we're not making the same application that we made in 2005. We couldn't make it because the village now restricts gross floor area in a way that it did not in 2005. In 2005, we would have been entitled to a bigger house that we're no longer entitled to without a GFA variance. But the thing that remains the same is the law and how the board analyzed and accepted the analysis of what the existing structure was as the starting point for a CHA expansion. And that's the point that we think that this board essentially should and ought to and is legally required to start from. The same place it started from in 2005, because neither the law has changed nor has the house changed.
So it's your opinion that, or I guess,
I don't want to venture my opinion. I'm not supposed to do that. But
so you're saying that the coastal erosion hazard area law, as applied by the zoning board in 2005, counted anything that was attached to the building as part of the ground area coverage?
It did. You can see that Mr. Lawrence's letter. Nick, could you put up Tom Lawrence's letter?
Yeah.
This is a portion of Tom Lawrence's letter that accompanied the application.
Okay.
And he says the 1989 footprint, and this was his analysis of what was pre-existing non-conforming under COs that the house had, was 300, you can see 3491 square feet, consisting of a house that he measured as 2575 and a 916 square foot integrally appurtenant oceanfront patio. So that's how he got to the 3491 square foot number. And if you analyze the Zoning Board of Appeals decision, and again, we could put up, this is the first page, but if we go to page 5, which is the next page, the part that's highlighted, you can see that they granted 2 different kinds of construction additions to the house. One portion is this 1684 that goes in place of the existing oceanfront patio. They didn't count that as part of the percentage. It was urged in another part of Mr. Lawrence's letter that you couldn't say it was an expansion if it went over the existing footprint. But then the 2-story addition abutting the existing dwelling and patio to the east is measured as 1,804 square feet. I don't have those plans, but I think it's fair to infer from that that the footprint would have been 50% of that, approximately 900 square feet. And that's what the board did in 2005. So they didn't count anything that was going to be, they counted the existing base for measuring an expansion under CHA as 3491. If you were building over that existing space, it didn't count as an expansion. But if you were extending the footprint beyond it, it did. And the addition clocked in at, to the best of our knowledge, at 25%.
So based on that rationale, wouldn't you then include the walkways, the steps, and the patios that are proposed to be attached to the building?
I don't think so, because while we don't have Tom Lawrence's justification for where he says it's an integral part of the house, these other things I think are not integral.
I don't know about that. It seems like it seems like you would have the benefit of including an at-grade brick patio, which my understanding is that it's set in sand, but then you would be adding steps and walkways and such that don't count. You're like double counting. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Well, I understand that this is a different analysis than the one that was presented in the survey. I do understand that. The way I understand the analysis that was presented before, it said basically the screen porch should be measured as an expansion of non-building coverage. Is that the way you understood it, Mr. Hayjack?
I'm not sure. Not exactly.
Anyway, but if we leave all the what's the right word? If we leave all the terminology behind and look at the physical space that we're proposing to add now, as compared to what the board allowed in 2005, essentially using the same yardstick that if it fell under 25%, it was something that the board was stood ready to approve. You can see that we're actually adding less. In 2005, we wound up with a total footprint of 4,361 square feet. Today, with the sunroom, what we're proposing is 3,588 square feet.
And cumulatively, that's so that's 25.4.
It's 25.7% because someone made a mistake somewhere along the line.
But that basis for the expansion, that's including the brick patio. That's what
Yes, it is.
saying.
It's including the brick patio because that's what the board did in 2005.
Okay, now I understand what you're saying. Okay.
I have a comment or that I understand what you're saying, Linda, about what you thought of. But the board relied on Tom Lawrence's interpretation. And what I'm hearing somewhat is that perhaps his interpretation was incorrect. So as the board moves forward and learns and the interpretation to see how law changes, don't we have to take that into account?
No, I think that with respect to this house and this application, the board, it's not what Mr. Lawrence said that matters. It's the fact that the board accepted it that matters. The board, the basis of the board's grant of the approval in 2005 was accepting the idea that the starting point for the footprint was 3491. And the house has not changed and the law has not changed. So this board, with respect, this board is constrained by its earlier decision to have a starting point of 3491. We don't have a different house. We don't have a different law. There's no changed circumstance.
Even if we found his interpretation to be incorrect. And
even if you disagreed with the board's interpretation in 2005.
Not the board. The board based their decision on Tom Lawrence's interpretation. Right?
Well, but it was the board that was the arbiter of how it was going to be determined, not Mr. Lawrence.
We're talking 27 square feet here, right?
No.
Not necessarily.
I think we need to do our numbers, Billy. I mean,
Mr. Chair, I think we're going to need. I follow the argument that's being made by the applicant's attorney. I think we're going to need to have this discussion with our own counsel in terms of what the constraints are. The argument is certainly made clearly in terms of what the precedent is. I think we're going to need to understand and follow it and understand its implications ourselves. Can I ask a follow-up question in regard to the 2005 application? Okay.
Sure.
So the 2005 application was made, there was an approval granted, but it was never acted on, correct?
Correct.
Can you follow the history? Can you just proceed from what happened in 2005?
I'll respond. It was acted on. The series of building permits were pulled. However, by the time all the architectural plans were completed, it was fast approaching the economic instability of the recession, that started 2007, 2008, and the client, because of the sunset provisions in coastal erosion, had to complete this project within 1 year and was unable to do that. So, as you may know, Mr. Rose, we had a litigation pending with the village with respect to a prior application in 2019, in which we sought to build a new house and relocate that house considerably to the rear of this property, albeit maintaining an ocean view. That application was denied 4-1 on the grounds that there was no precedent for building a new house within coastal erosion. And we were instructed by the board to pursue the 24.9% application, which is what we have before you. With respect to adjourning the application, we have no issue with that, of course. Billy needs an opportunity to review this. And we will submit to you a revised plan, bringing the total proposed addition, including the screen porch, to within the 24.9% number. And if you think this is an opportunity for us to have a work session to discuss it, would certainly welcome participating in a work session after we've submitted a revised plan and a memorandum setting forth all of our arguments.
I also, Mr. Ackerman, I think that we have sent this out to the village engineer to get a more detailed construction protocol, just so we're kind of waiting on Drew Bennett to get back to us also.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that. I didn't see that in the file. No, I see. Okay, sure.
So
Absolutely.
Billy, you reached out to him before the holidays, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We have that too. I think we need to adjourn this until the work session.
Oh, no, you need to adjourn it to the next public hearing night, not for work session.
Okay, February 12th, right?
Well, just for clarification, if there's going to be a work session, are we going to be allowed to participate in the work session?
The work session will not be on this application. This application will continue on through public hearing, not work session. Work session days are for when public hearings have been closed and the board wants to discuss an application amongst itself to make its determination.
Okay, so Beth, is it going to be the same rules as in the town where applicants don't participate? They
Correct.
can just, but there'll be open meetings for?
Yes, it'll comply with open meetings law.
And will we get notice of the work sessions so that we can watch them? I mean, presumably they'll be on Zoom, right?
Yes. They'll be on Zoom, they'll be on the agenda. Whatever applications the board would discuss or make determinations on would be on the agenda.
I see. Okay, good. I appreciate that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I just, Len, can I ask one additional question?
Of course, Billy.
You were breaking up earlier on in your initial presentation, but I heard something about the lights and the fencing and the scenic easement. Can you just reiterate what you had?
Well, no, what we, in our papers, the scenic easement that's proposed is shown on the survey. The reduction of coverage to make it conforming, the buffer, I mean, that's all in what's been proposed in the present application. The removal of the lights on the beach, which has been an issue in the last application as well, and the CNR for the sunroom.
Okay, thank you.
What does happen to the lights now? Are we going to discuss those now? I mean, in the next meeting?
Well, after it's closed, after the hearing is closed, that'll be a condition of the determination if in fact this application is granted. Right.
Mr. Ackerman, you also talked about revegetation.
Yeah, there's a re-veg plan also in the file, right?
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask in regard to the things that are in egregious violation that are not part of the application for relief? I'm not sure I understand why the applicant is waiting to cure the
well, because they're pending in litigation over the 2019 application. Because once you file,
sure. We'll discuss this in future sessions, but let me just make sure I have the question out, please, which is, so is the litigation tied to permitting the lighting and fencing on the beach? And if it's not, why is that
Beth, could you please?
Violation persistent?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think the lights were tied to the prior determination. I don't think they were included as part of the application the last time, so they wouldn't be.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. So why are they still there?
Why? Because our position is that they're pre-existing non-conforming, and we're offering a mitigation to remove them.
Pre-existing non-conforming as of when?
Well, as of when? presumably before zoning.
Really? Okay. I think it would be good to have information submitted as to when those,
But we're removing those if you grant relief. If you don't grant relief and we litigate with you again, we'll fight that battle at that time. That's how you eliminate these. We're eliminating all these violations. We were eliminating them in our proposal in 2019, and that application was denied. So now, pending our Article 78 on the 2019 application, all the violations are stayed. And the same thing will happen here.
I just want to make sure I understand what's being claimed. The assertion is that the lighting and fencing in the dunes is pre-existing non-conforming prior to zoning.
I'm not sure that's correct. I have to go back and look at what position.
All I'm requesting is that we have submitted information regarding what the status is of these different aspects. There's obviously a lot of history here. There's
a lot of history. There's a lot of history.
Ms. Margolin, let me just finish, please. Ms. Margolin made some references to some part of the history. I think it's important as we look at this, as we understand and discuss it, that we understand all the history. So one of the things that's important is that we have facts regarding each of the components here, because that's going to have to govern how we discuss this. So it will be, to the extent that there is any evidence indicating that there's pre-existing non-conforming violations here, it would be useful to
well, let me ask Linda and Nick. Nick, are there violations asserted of record with respect to the lights? Is there a violation asserted?
I'm gonna have to check. I'm not sure if Ken.
I don't believe there are.
I just know that the lights right now, they're not germane to this application, other than the fact that we're offering their removal as mitigation.
Mr. Rose, I think what happened, and I'm relying on memory, is that the existence of the lights wasn't flagged by a violation issued by the village, but it was something that came up during the course of preparing the 2019 application. And rather than fighting over whether or not they were pre-existing non-conforming, which is what the applicants believe, property owners believe, we simply offered to remove them, and we continue to offer to remove them as part of the current application.
I just think, but looking at Billy's memo, there's a review of the notice of violations, and it says that the owner was given a notice of violation in November 2017, and which included, among other things, the installation of fencing and lighting within the dune setback.
Oh, I stand corrected then.
Yeah, and then that letter, that notice of violation was reissued, it looks like, on July 8th, 2020.
Correct.
Right.
We'll reconvene this on the.
Sean, I had some stuff that I wanted to say.
Go ahead.
And we should probably see if anybody from the public has anything to say.
I'm going to ask that, but yes.
Yeah. I do have some current concerns about changing the character of the neighborhood, because it'll be significantly changing the dunescape. I have concerns about, whether it be, although it's not considered new construction, expansion in the coastal erosion hazard area. The property's pretty intensely developed already. I have significant environmental concerns with digging up the dune. The dunes are fragile and environmentally fragile. And then the letters and plans submitted by the applicant seem to flip-flop between labeling this a sun porch and a screened-in porch. If we do move forward, I ask that it be confirmed that this is a screened-in porch and not a sunroom or a sun porch, that there'll be no half wall surrounding the porch, as it's shown on the plans. It will be screened from floor to ceiling. There'll be no heat, no radiant heat, no AC, and open to the elements other than the screens. In addition, I would ask the applicant to covenant that it will not be enclosed, and they will not seek a variance to enclose it, as so often happens. I'm not 100% sure about this last one, but I think I might be more comfortable if it was if it was built on a slab as opposed to digging deeply into the dune, because you're not disturbing the dune as much. So, but I'm sure we'll hear from the village engineer. Those are my comments.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Mr. Chair, if I can just make one last request and I assume we're continuing this without prejudice and any particular point, but I have one question. There were, based on the rationale, or at least one of the rationales for the variance, there's a reference to how the space will be used, but there's the plans, at least that I reviewed, that do not include any floor plans, internal floor plans for the integration of these new expansion parts into the plan of the house itself. So there's just voids. And if you could see a more detailed floor plan of the house itself.
Revised plans were submitted in November.
Yeah, Joe, you should have, there's a whole.
As I said, it may be that I've, in the vast amount of paper, I've missed something. So I'll check with the.
They've a great book. So we'll, Pam, try to get Joe a booklet that we have. Okay, great. Any comments from the public?
Yes, we have one caller on the line. Let me unmute the caller now.
Oh, I have a comment as well.
Okay. All right, Brian.
Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, you're on.
Hello?
Please state your name and your address. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
We are here.
Hello? I'm trying to in. Jane Maynard, a resident of East Hampton for 46 and a half years. Trying to call in.
Okay,
yes,
can you?
You're on the line.
You're on the line.
Can you hear us, Mrs. Maynard?
Okay, let's. Brian.
Okay.
Brian, you have comments?
Yes, I can. I just have a couple of comments very quickly. If the board can hear me, okay.
Brian, just and well, give us. I can tell you the state name and everything.
Yes, Brian Matthews, Matthews Kirsten Cooley, 241 Panago Road, East Hampton. We represent Jeffrey and Marjorie Rosen, who are the owners of 241 Panago, 41 Lily Pond Lane, pardon me, which lies just to the north of the subject property. And it's important to note, I know it's in the file, and I know the board knows that the Lily Pond, the 33 Lily Pond property takes access over our client's property in order to get in and out of there, as the board knows, we appeared in opposition to the prior application, which was denied by the board, and as has been mentioned, is presently in litigation, which our clients are a part of. And we share. I can cut out a lot of what I was going to say, probably because some of the new information that's come out and some of the additional review that needs to be done. But in sum and substance, I think we share some of the board's concerns that have been expressed. Just because there was an application in 2005 that was approved, there's a reason why coastal erosion permits have a 1-year shelf life. There's constant increase in knowledge and updating and information about how and best means and ways to go about protecting natural resources, and particularly the dune and coastal erosion areas. So simply because this application is more in line with what was granted 15 years ago, that doesn't automatically mean, as I know the board knows, that it should get approved. And just because this is substantially scaled back from what was denied, likewise doesn't mean it should get approved. I think that speaks more to how massive and out of character the prior application was. But we share concerns about the overall coverage numbers. We share concerns about the maxed out coastal erosion coverage. They share the concerns that seem to be raised about the sunroom or sun porch. Unfortunately, history shows here that on this property, there's, much like the tennis house I could just touch base on in a minute, that once approvals are granted and permits are granted, there's the high likelihood, or every reason to believe at least, that this sun porch will at some point be repurposed and converted into habitable space without any village review or approval. When we were talking about, I believe it was Mr. Humphries was talking about the violations of regarding the fencing and the lights in the dune. The other major violation here that has been going on for the better part of 30 to 40 years has been the village's attempts to cure the expansion, both in terms of size and use of this tennis house. Nothing has seemed to work, not litigation, not conditions of approval. So it somewhat begs the question of whether or not a different approach here is warranted, of corrective action being taken and signed off on prior to any further approvals being considered and certainly granted. And then they also, understandably shared real concerns about the impact on Tides Turn Lane itself, which is where they all access from. The potential impact on their property is recognized in the application and recognized in the Bulgin protocol. And so they would like to have, and we've begun these discussions with Mr. Ackerman to, try to make sure that, they have the ability to respond to that protocol to address their concerns. I'm glad to hear that this is going to be continued over, that we were going to make that same request. But I just I thought it was important to get their concerns out for the board to review. And as this applications go forward, we can review what's submitted and put our concerns in front of the board in a written fashion, and, give everybody a chance to take them into consideration and to respond.
All right, thanks, Brian. And we're going to February 12th. Okay, so we're going to continue this hearing.
I think the caller's back.
Okay. Ms. Maynard?
Am I unmuted? Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Mrs. Maynard?
Hi.
Mrs. Maynard?
Record. I've been a
this-
resident with my husband, Walter Maynard.
This is
for the
Pam,
last,
wait, this is Pam Bennett.
Hi. Hi, Pam. I'm just calling to make a comment and a question. It was very,
Hi,
very
let me
interesting
swear
to
you
hear.
in.
How do I do that?
Raise your hand.
Do I do something?
Let me swear you in.
I hope.
Nope.
Okay.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Jane Henderson Maynard, a resident of the East Hampton Village with my husband Walter Maynard Jr. for the last 46 plus years.
Do you swear to
I've got
tell the
my
truth,
hand
the whole
raised.
truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'll try my best. Yes.
Okay, good.
My husband's screaming upstairs. He fell out of bed last night and he's hurt a lot, so I can hear him upstairs. It breaks my heart, but anyway, that's off the subject. I listened very intently. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am.
Oh, good. Okay, I listened very intently to educate myself on what goes on at the village meetings, which I attended for about 2 years, and I had Mr. Wallbridge, the owner of the Wallbridge, representing me at each meeting. What I was trying to do, as you may recall, I don't know, but I was trying to do a subdivision of a 6.7 acre lot into 2 lots of 3+ acres. And I realized that one has to go through a lot of stuff in order to get any approval. But I kind of gave up on it when I went over the time limit on actually activating the whole thing. And then my husband got very sick, so I haven't done anything about it. But just for future reference, I would like to be able to go back to that at some point. Not right now.
Mrs. Maynard?
Yeah,
Mrs.
off
Maynard.
the subject.
Mrs. Maynard?
35 Georgica Road is the address that I was talking about at the time. And I
Miss
wanted
Okay,
Can I
so
put another,
just wait.
Can I
We're
put
on,
another-
we're on another hearing.
okay. I will.
Just wait.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We're on.
We're not on that application yet.
Hearing yet, so
No,
let's, let's,
February, can I bring mine up February 12th? And I have one comment. You had one, you were off a few acres. When you subtracted 110 from the 996, you came out with 986, and you should have come out with, I think, 886 on the square feet. That was just a comment I made on the last subject that you were addressing. I did the arithmetic here.
we're not,
I
we're
just
not
put
on
a-
that, Maynard, so I think.
I know you're off that. I'm just making that comment that you were off.
Well, we're in the middle of
by Okay.
Okay, thank
neither
you.
here nor there.
Reach out to Mr.
Thank
Maynard.
you very much. And I can apply. I'm sorry to interrupt your meeting. I can apply and come to the next meeting if I have. Mr. Ackerman has been my lawyer in the past, so perhaps he can represent me on this one again. So what do I do? Do I have to apply in person, or do I have to send a written application to you to get on your agenda?
Just you reach out to Mr. Ackerman and he can guide you through the process.
Okay. Sounds good. And thank you, and I apologize for interrupting.
Be safe. Thank you. Okay. All right. So we're to February 12th. Okay. So Pam, you want to move on to we need to adjourn?
Sure.
Okay.
Application of Georgia Road LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-812-11.1 for a variance from Chapter 278 zoning to permit a residence that exceeds allowable gross floor area to remain on a parcel of land that will be reduced in size. A 1,422 square foot gross floor area variance is required from Section 278 3A 13A to allow an existing 11,550 square foot residence to remain on a parcel of land that will be permitted 9,628 square feet of principal building gross floor area and any other relief necessary. The pending lot line modification with property identified as 39 Georgia Road will reduce the size of the subject property from 156,233 square feet to 140,933 square feet. The subject property is located at 47 Georgia Road and is in Residence District R80. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
We have the applicant.
Hi, John Tarbett. Tarbett and Lester for the applicant. There's actually two applicants. It's 39 Georgia Road and 47 Georgia Road. We're before your board today because we went to the planning board requesting a lot line modification. And if you're able to look at some of the submitted materials.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Go ahead, Mike. Everyone has a different number too. Cool.
Is that okay? Everybody hear me again?
We can.
Yes.
Great. So, so we went to the planning board in order to request a lot line modification, which if you're able to look at some of the submitted materials, you'll see that 39 Georgia suffers from being an incredibly irregularly shaped lot. We did approach the owner of 47 Georgia Road, which is actually an interesting property in the sense that it's not really visible from any public road. It's halfway between Baiting Hollow and Georgia. It gets access from Georgia down a very long driveway. But we were able to reach out to that neighbor who benefits in some ways from an also irregularly shaped property, and that he has a rectangle that is relatively useless to the property. It really looks as though, if you were looking at an aerial photograph, that it belongs to 39 Georgia, which is my client. So we approached them seeking a lot line modification to smooth out the two property lines. And Billy, we actually thought we did not need zoning board until Billy Hajak correctly noted that while while the lot line modification would actually make 39 Georgia more conforming in that the garage that exists would now meet setbacks. The end result of transferring land from 47 Georgia to 39 Georgia would result in that the house at 47 Georgia being too large with regard to gross floor area. So we then made an application to your board seeking to have a GFA variance for 47 Georgia. Of course, 47 Georgia is not changing at all. The property, the house will remain exactly the same. It's just that we're taking that little rectangle off the back of their property and applying it to 39 Georgia. And the planning board did write a letter to your board saying that they are supportive of the application, and that's how we got to you today.
Yes, we did get a letter from Ken Westberg, planning board chairman. They did approve this. I'm gonna let Billy take this away a little bit first for us. Billy?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I prepared a report for the board. If you have any specific questions about it, I'm happy to try to answer them. Generally speaking, the lot line modification that's proposed herein is consistent with the policies of the subdivision regulations. It creates, it makes more uniform shaped parcels. So in general, that's a positive. In terms of the gross floor area variance, I don't really have an opinion on that. It's an existing building. The lot's becoming smaller. They're not proposing any new construction, so it's there and it is what it is. But in terms of what's triggering that variance, the lot line modification, I view that as a benefit. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to try to answer them.
I don't have any questions at all. Any of the board members like to speak?
I'm good.
No, it's helpful to hear Billy's opinion on this because it's a bit complicated. And if he is willing to accept this, I am. It looked to me like one of the properties that was going to become less conforming, and we're not in the business of making things less conforming, but apparently that's not correct.
Okay.
This seems to make a great deal of sense. Let me just ask the question just for.
Go ahead.
Is there any potentially adverse implication from this, and what are and the criteria? Everything here seems to make a great deal of sense, just in terms of the geometry and the regulatory impact. Is there any issue that, other than rationalizing the layout of the sites, is there any implication that flows from this that you can identify?
I guess the implication would be that the parcel fronting on Georgica Road becomes larger by 15,000 square feet, which means they have additional coverage. It makes their lot more buildable in terms of adding coverage and adding allowable gross floor area. One of the other actual benefits, though, of this is that it makes the existing garage / apartment building on that parcel conforming to setbacks. So.
Understood. Thank you.
Anybody in the audience or online?
I think there is.
Yes, we have the same caller on the line.
Hello.
Hello.
That's Mr. Sedgwick.
Sorry, I'm having, can you guys see me or hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sam, can you swear?
Let me swear you in.
All right.
Please
better?
raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
That's Mitchell Sedgwick, 49 Georgica Road.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
My query is, I understand the logic of making the lot line, squaring it up, as it were, as Billy points out, and that actually allows that the structure in the back, the garage and so on, to conform, as it were. My concern is that since it's adding a significant amount more property at 39 Georgica, whether or not they would covenant that there would not be any expansion of their floor area, in other words, more building over there. which would affect my property more directly.
Billy?
I don't know if that's a question for me or towards the applicant. I'm not really sure. I haven't received any offer, or I don't think the applicant has made such an offer. It's not clear to me actually how big the existing buildings are and how much additional floor area could be added, but maybe the applicant could answer that.
Yeah, John, can you answer any of that, or?
Yeah, I think I can answer some of it, but forgive me if I don't have the numbers directly in front of me. I think the existing house is at or very near what would be allowed. And then if we're talking about 15,000 square feet, is the calculation 3% for when you do billing for gross floor area? I can look up in the code. So I think we're talking somewhere around 300 or 400 square feet would be what would be allowed to be added if the existing house were at the exact number. I would not be inclined to offer a covenant with regard to gross floor area because, like any other taxpayer in the village of East Hampton, a future owner of this property could apply for a variance to increase the size of the house, and to covenant now prohibit, it would be a significant loss in value of this property to forever covenant against a future owner being able to get a variance to allow additional gross floor area. In addition, we don't know that gross floor area laws will always be in existence or in existence in the way they are now. So a covenant, in general, I hate covenants on properties because having done this for 20 years, I've seen how good intentions today create problems later. So just I would have I hadn't thought of it before the hearing, but just the more I'm thinking about it, it's a significant, it potentially significantly impacts the property, even though, and it's also, if I'm correct that the existing house is, let's call it exactly at what could be allowed, although I'm sure it's not exactly, the amount of land that we're asking to transfer really wouldn't allow for any sort of significant addition. If anything, it would allow 300 or 400 square feet, which I could see being very beneficial to an owner to be able to, I don't know, a sunroom or or bumping out a room for a bathroom or something. The amount of gross floor area that we could add by bringing in this much property, if anything, it would add a convenience to the existing house and not change the character of the neighborhood whatsoever. The other thing is the existing house is on the National Registry of Historic Homes. You would hate to see somebody confined by a covenant and not be able to do what they want with that house and force them to a decision. I mean, you could have really negative consequences where you force somebody to tear down the existing house to build something that better suits their changing family needs because they had no flexibility to apply to the board I guess I'm rambling on because I'm thinking about it live before the hearing. I hadn't thought about it beforehand, but I could see a lot of negative consequences from covenanting permanently on this property, that there would never be any additional gross floor area.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
I have none.
I think this is a good application because it makes the lots more regular, and the planning board is in support. I'm assuming the planning board's lead agency, so that's my comment.
Okay. All right. Motion to close the hearing.
I'll move.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
John, I think we still had a caller on the line.
I'm sorry. We have another caller?
I think it's the same woman maybe from before. Mrs. Maynard?
Yes.
Possibly?
I'll unmute her now.
So we're gonna have to open the hearing back up.
Yes.
Sorry. My husband and I are at 35 Georgica Road, so this is something that I am concerned about. And I think the gentleman just called in addressed my question, if you can hear me.
Hold on one second.
Oh, I don't hear you. I'm sorry, I don't hear you. I see you, but I can't hear you.
John, you have
Are
to
you
reopen the
there?
hearing.
Yes, I make a motion.
Yeah.
Can we have a motion on the floor to reopen the hearing?
Hi.
Second.
Hi. Hello?
Aye.
Hello? Can you hear me? I'm on my landline now.
Yes,
Can you
Mrs.
hear
Maynard,
me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. All right, my husband and I live at 35 Georgica Road. We're in the cottage now because he can't walk upstairs. So anyway, it does apply to, we are concerned about 39 and 47 Georgica Road application. The gentleman who called in prior to me addressed that problem of a possible variance, etc. But I am concerned because there's so much building going on now in the village. I'm concerned that if this goes through, will the applicant be able to change the dwelling, add to it, have a variance to go close to the property line, etc.? All of those questions. So my question to you is because I haven't got the paper in front of me that gave all this information, but if he gets the variance now to do whatever he wants to do, is he then able to get a variance to go near the close to the property line, etc.? All the things that he would need a variance to do, because we just have a lot of neighbors. We unfortunately sold a 2-acre lot, 37 Georgica Road, to somebody who's totally put this huge McMansion that covers practically the entire 2 acres. And we are concerned about all these variances going on in the village. So my question is, does he get the variance automatically? And we do, my husband and I have a question and a problem with this. End of question.
Thank you, Mrs. Maynard. We're really not in the, we don't know what the applicant will do down the road. I don't think that's a question that we can answer. I have no clue what he's going to do, John. I mean,
Okay.
But if they do decide to do something, Mrs. Maynard, then, and if it required a variance, they would have to come back in front of us to gain approval.
I understand that. Yeah. Okay. I can't hear you anymore, but that's okay. You've answered my question. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry to have disrupted your meeting earlier. Thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Response, Mr. Chair, Joe Rosen, in response, let me just ask a question for Billy, I guess. But as a result of approving this rejiggering of the property lines, is there anything that allows something to become permissible, not other than the existing ancillary structure becoming conforming as a result, and the overall increase in the mathematical calculations for allowable GFA as a result of the larger property? Is there anything that is permissible, that becomes permissible in terms of setback variance adjustments as a result? I'm just trying to respond to the comment from the public. Is there anything that is permissible as a result other than the overall calculations in terms of numeric coverage?
I can't find any. In terms of curb cuts, it doesn't change the number of permissible curb cuts. There's no clearing limitation, so it doesn't really change, any physical features on the property. I did run some numbers while the caller was on, and if I'm correct, the allowable gross floor area for the house right now is 7,931 square feet, and the lot line modification would allow 8,390 square feet, which is an increase of 459 square feet of gross floor area. The existing residence, as John indicated, is historic. It's a 3-story house, so I don't know. I didn't see any plans on file with the village, so I don't know how big the house is. I'd be taking a guess. But the accessory building, because it does have an apartment, or I think it did have an apartment, contributes to principal building GFA. So
it does.
The entire garage would, right? I think. The way they
Yes.
really put it.
Yep.
Thank you. Just
Okay, so for the second time, a motion to. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on here.
Thank you again.
Pam?
Application of Daniel Faber and Rochelle Shaw, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-2722 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning to construct a swimming pool and legalize 2 AC condenser units. 2 10-foot variances are requested from Section 278-3A5C to construct a swimming pool 10 feet from the side yard lot line and 10 feet from the rear yard lot line, where the required side and rear yard setbacks are 20 feet. Variances of 1.8 feet, 2 feet, and 11.3 feet are requested from Sections 278-3A5B and A to legalize an AC condenser unit located 8.2 feet from the side yard lot line and 33 feet from the front yard lot line, and legalize a second AC condenser unit located 23.7 feet from the front yard lot line, where the required side yard setback is 10 feet and the required front yard setbacks are 35 feet. The subject property is 8,425 square feet in lot area and is located at 70 Dayton Lane in Residence District R40. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm
Please,
good, thanks.
you already have your, say your name and address for the record.
Lori Wiltshire, 231C Pantigo Road, East Hampton, New York, 11937.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning or afternoon.
Hi there. So the application is for variances to construct an 8 by 38 square foot swimming pool and its associated equipment and dry well, along with legalizing 2 existing air conditioning units. The requested variances are all required due to the size of the lot and the location of the residence. The proposed pool is a lap pool because Rochelle Shaw, one of the owners, has multiple sclerosis and needs it for therapy. We forwarded a letter actually this morning, but I'm going to read it into the record because I don't know if it made it into your file. It's to you from her, Rochelle L. Shaw, DDS, and according to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, the unique qualities of water provide exceptional benefits to people with MS. Water helps people with MS move in ways they may not be able to on land. Swimming in particular is therapeutic for MS sufferers because it promotes muscle relaxation, reduces stress, and cools them, among many other benefits. I, Rochelle, suffer from MS. I am asking for a variance that would allow construction of a therapy pool at my home at 70 Dayton Lane. The pool would allow me to gain the benefits of swimming to slow the progression of the disease, and I ask the board to please approve the variances. Thank you. The subject property abuts a driveway of the John Marshall Elementary School to the rear. I sent some photos over to Pam yesterday. I don't know if they ended up in your file.
Yes, the board has.
Okay, great. So you'll be able to see that driveway is really the most impacted neighbor to the back of the property. But we also have a letter of support from the neighbor to the left. And I can read that to you as well. She would be also the most impacted by the variances for the pool and one of the air conditioning units. This is an email from Anne Marie Shuey. I recently received a notice from you concerning a variance for my neighbors, the Fabers. I have no objection to their putting in a lap pool at their home on Dayton Lane, East Hampton. Thank you, Anne Marie Shuey at 74 Dayton Lane. So she's immediately adjacent on the side where we're requesting side yard relief for the swimming pool and for one of the AC units. The proposed pool has been positioned to align with the house. The pool equipment will be located where the existing outdoor shower is and will not require a variance. There are many pools on neighboring properties. A 13-foot setback variance was granted for a pool at 20 Stratton Square in 2018, And variances were also granted to 204 Newtown Lane in order to construct a pool 12.3 feet from the rear yard and 22 feet from where 22 feet was required. And front and side yard variances were granted to 38 Dayton Lane to allow an existing generator and AC units to remain. 38 Dayton Lane is 24,700 square feet in size, substantially larger than the 8,425 square feet of the subject parcel. Granting the requested variances will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment to nearby properties. The rear yard is surrounded by stockade fencing and significant vegetation, so the pool will not be visible and associated noise will be ameliorated. While some of the requested variances appear substantial, this is due to the location of the house and the small lot size and should not preclude granting the variances requested. The proposed improvements are in keeping with the neighborhood and will have no negative effects on nearby properties. And there will be no adverse impacts to the environment or physical conditions of the neighborhood. A dry well is proposed for the pool. They're intending to use for it to be a saltwater pool. And the backyard and the AC units are already well screened with fencing and landscaping. There are also no wetlands nearby, and the project is environmentally benign.
Okay, thanks, Lori. We do have a letter or an email from Joyce Meyer, who would be the neighbor if you're looking at the house to the right. And it does say that she does not want a pool 10 feet from her property line, but she probably is the least affected. It's, I think it's 37, a little over 38 feet from her property.
Correct.
So we just take it, let's take the air conditioning units first. Does anyone have any?
Honestly, you're talking 2 feet or something like that. I can't get excited about this. I don't think it's a problem.
Okay. Anyone else?
I don't have a problem either because they're both behind a fence, so anyone on the street cannot see them, and they're somewhat enclosed by the fencing. So noise-wise, I don't think they have that much of a effect on the neighbors.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hi, Joe.
I would share, I think the impact is de minimis, and I think it's material that the affected neighbor has expressed a letter of support. Doesn't mean that obviously it would require a letter of support or that a neighbor would have to weigh in one way or the other, but the fact that the neighbor has voluntarily indicated their support is material.
Okay, great. All right, let's talk about the pool now. Who would like to take us out on that?
I can't, unless there's some hardship added to this by moving that pool 10 feet to the east, I don't understand what the 10 feet to the right, I don't understand why there's a problem. Why can't you do that?
She was trying to align the pool with the house for aesthetic reasons.
It's aesthetic, it's not physical.
No, it's not physical.
Okay.
It's aesthetic.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally like to see it in a more conforming location. I mean, you're not going to be able to conform totally, but I'd like to see it a little bit, not too close, obviously, to the neighbor to the right, Mrs. Meyer, because she doesn't want it, but it's going to have to move it to a little bit to the right.
I mean, the reason why it can't be conforming, and also one of the rationales, which was to have sunlight, it will have more if you move it to a conforming location, a more conforming location vis-a-vis the side yard setback.
That's what you're talking about, the side yard setback, because the rear, if we moved it to a conforming location from the rear, you basically step down off of your steps into your pool from the house, which is not going to work very well, especially for people at the clean.
That's correct. You know, I see that you can put it in a conforming location. I took a scale to the survey, and it looks like you can get it totally in a conforming location. You know, have a deck overlooking the pool.
So I'm sorry, I don't know who's speaking because I don't have everyone on screen.
Philip O'Connell.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Sorry, what did you say again?
I think you can get it completely in a conforming location. If this is scaled correctly, what we got.
It is scaled correctly. But like I just said, I think if you move it 10 feet closer to the house, you're going to step outside of your house and into your pool.
I don't think, Lori, I don't think we want to just help design this. I think maybe if you would like to come back and maybe relook at this.
Okay, so what I heard, and I will discuss this with my clients, but what I heard was one objection to the rear yard setback, and everyone would like to see the side yard setback conforming. Is that correct?
You don't want to design it, just if you could come back with another idea, it'd be great.
Okay.
Is there
I'll be in touch with my clients and we will come back to the next meeting.
That's great. Are there any neighbors who would like to be heard?
Currently, there's nobody on the line.
Okay, thank you. So we'll adjourn this meeting till February 12th, right, Pam?
Yes.
Any other business? Is there a motion on the floor to close the hearing?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.